We're going to start right now because the recording stopped and now we're going to restart. Hi, welcome. I am Danielle Snyder and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I am really excited to talk to you about how stress impacts your heart health on behalf of HPHC and the Tufts Health Plan. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a meditation, actually. And I have so many thoughts on how, as a society, we talk about meditation, but it's not often put into practice and it can seem really big and overwhelming. And so I want to do a small introduction to help you better understand what a small meditation could do. And then we're going to talk about how that actually impacts your heart. So I'm first going to ask you to make your space safe. It sounds like a weird thing, but when space is constantly being bombarded by noise and interruption, it's really hard to be present. So turn over your phone, shut out of your email, do whatever you can to be here in this moment. And then I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Relax as much as you can wherever you are. Picture a relaxing place, like a beach, a mountain, a forest top, a forest, or a mountaintop, or anywhere you can find peace and quiet. It could even be your bed. Imagine what you see, hear, and smell in this oasis. Start to breathe in slowly, allowing the air to fill your lungs. Hold your breath for a moment. Slowly release your breath as you continue to picture your surroundings. What do you hear or smell? As you take another breath, feel any of the tension you're holding on to drain from your muscles. As you breathe in and out, let go of any negative thoughts from the day. Free your mind of worry as you continue to picture your happy place. If thoughts pop up, acknowledge them and release them. Draw from the serenity of the moment. Allow the calmness of your imagined oasis to wash away your worries and drain the tension from your muscles. The amazing thing about this place is you can visit here whenever you like. The choice is yours. You can always come back to that quiet breath and allow yourself to take a few seconds to imagine your oasis and be a little bit calm. So I'm going to ask you to bring this calmness as we start to talk about heart health, and take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And now we're going to get started. Okay. So, as we all know, stress is bad. And a lot of times when we go to the doctor's office or we listen to one of these presentations, it can be a little overwhelming because the reality is the stress is a part of our life. There is essentially no way to go through life without stress. I mean, even good, happy times bring stress. And so the idea or concept behind this presentation isn't to say, hey, you're not going to have any stress, but I do want to help teach you some skills so you can manage stress better. And just to kind of go into specific details without giving you too much or causing too much concern, I do think it's information is power. So 3 effects of stress on the heart can be increased digestive problems, increased blood pressure, inflammation, irregular heart rate and rhythm. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. A lot of times what can happen is because we are living in a life that is more stressful, it can impact our heart because of the hormones being released into our body, but also because of the way we're living our life. So stress has a huge impact indirectly on our lives. An example of that is like when you're worried, you may sleep poorly. If you're really rushed and busy all the time, you're less likely to exercise, make healthy food choices. And they add up over time, which makes you more vulnerable to heart problems. Also, I know I'm kind of throwing the bad stuff at you before I'll start talking about the good stuff. Stress, because stress often is accompanied with an increase in cortisol, that can mean an increase in inflammation. When we have an increase in inflammation, it is more likely that we're going to have high blood pressure. So we've all heard that maybe it's some way or kind of expressed to us in another form of concern where we know that stress is not good for our heart. And I don't want to continue to beat this subject into your brains, because if you're already stressed and anxious, hearing it over and over again can be even more overwhelming and stress producing. So the first thing that I like to do is normalize this for people. You know, stress is a part of every single day, especially right now. The first step to being able to normalize managing it is recognizing it in your life. Stress presents differently for everyone. Some people become more isolated. Some people are angry. Some people are irritable. So I want you to take a second and pause and think about, how does stress manifest in your life? What are your red flags? And you know what? If you have a piece of paper and you want to write it down, even better. Okay. So the cool thing as well about this is inviting other people in to support you and help you be more accountable. So with that little list that you wrote down, I'm actually going to encourage you to share that with someone that you love to help you be more, or it doesn't even have to be someone you love, but someone you trust, someone who is supportive. So you can use that support to be a little bit more aware of when stress is impacting your mood. You could also, if you have close connections, ask them, hey, what do you notice when I get stressed? That can be really helpful, because they may be insightful and be like, yeah, when you're anxious, you never look me in the eye, or you're, something like that. So the first step is acknowledging and being able to recognize it. The next step that can be really helpful to kind of counteract how much stress you're allowing in your life is taking a look at your schedule. It can be really difficult to manage all of the things happening in your life. And I struggle to encourage people to add more when we're already so busy. So a part of that, I am going to, unfortunately, encourage you to add more. But I'm first going to have you look at your schedule and think about if there's ways that you're spending your time that is not serving you. So an example of that could be how much time you're spending on social media. Or if anyone has an example and feels brave, they can bop it in the chat room and be like, yeah, I spend a lot of time doing this and it's really not helpful for me. A lot of times throughout our day, we are really busy, but we're also giving away our energy to unnecessary things, like getting angry, like I said, social media, yelling at people, fighting with our kids, all the things that can be necessary, but also there are other ways to do it. So the first thing with our heart health is to kind of acknowledge what it feels like when you're stressed. first. Second, start to be aware of where you're giving away your energy. The next part is a little more difficult because it requires a level of participation and changes within your lifestyle. I know a lot of times when we're talking about making changes, people are like, just do it. And the reality is that if anyone could just do it, they would have done it already. And so we have to look at this next step with compassion and accountability. So you haven't done these steps yet. That's okay. Life is really challenging and it is really hard to implement changes. I was reading recently that 80% of people who make New Year's resolution fail by February. And yet, like, we spend so much of our energy planning these resolutions, and the media calls us in to the resolutions, and we think, oh, this is how I'm gonna start. This is my starting point, this resolution. Yet 80% of people fail. So clearly the way we engage with resolutions is not setting us up for success. So you may be like, Danielle, how do we make changes then? And what I like to bring in is this really unsexy, not so exciting goals that help us. They're called SMART goals. And if you have, kind of, if you reach back into your brain, you probably remember being taught this before. And the SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. What happens a lot of time when we're doing a resolution or a big goal is we make them impossible to achieve. We may have read a book about it or a newsletter about it or something, and so it seems possible, but the reality is like most people need little steps in order to achieve changes in their life. That means a lot of times consistency, accountability, and repetition. The little steps is what creates big steps. However, it is less, there's less positive feedback in big forms. And something that I've noticed as working with people is that, rightfully so, we all want to see big changes fast. And it's really hard to measure small progress. That is why making SMART goals and more process-oriented goals are really helpful. So I'm going to get to that question in chat in a second, but one of the things that can help us reduce the stress on our heart, which depending on the level of inflammation or heart disease that you have, can be reversible. Our heart and our bodies are meant to heal. And when provided the appropriate time and space and compassion and effort, inflammation can decrease. Our hearts can get healthy. And again, it's all on that contingency, that spectrum of heart disease. But if you are dealing with chronic stress and then you lower your stress, people, let's say, who have autoimmune disorders don't have flare-ups because the stress is less. So yes, inflammation can decrease and you can manage how you experience stress in the future so it doesn't have a negative impact on your body. So some of those things that are the most important aspects that we can do is exercise, gratitude, meditation, being around others, yoga, listening to music, going for a hike, avoiding smoking, eating mostly healthy. I like to say balanced, getting outside, volunteering. So I just gave you a whole host. And generally what happens, yes, yin yoga is great. Someone just put that. Generally what happens when we're given those 15 examples that I just threw at you is we try all at once. And what do you think happens when we try all of those things at once? We fail. And then we get discouraged. And then we say F it and we stop trying. And the failing part of it makes us more stressed. And it's kind of this like counter productive cycle that keeps us stuck and not being able to make changes, which is so incredibly frustrating. And again, it's not because you don't care or lack of effort. It's because change is hard. So I want you to look or think about the different ideas that I just gave you. So exercise, laughter, yoga, gratitude, meditation. And I want you to think about those SMART goals. So these goals are, again, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And I'm going to do a couple examples for you. And then if anyone wants to pop into the chat an example they would like, we could do that as well. But when I think about exercise, for example, the World Health Organization, I believe, is now saying it's 5 days a week for 30 minutes, which if you have not been moving your body is a ton of exercise. And if we go from not exercising at all, even though exercising is one of those main components to helping our heart health, to trying to exercise 5 days a week, 30 minutes, it can be really hard. And then we get discouraged. So when we go to the SMART goal, I look first, I'm going to be like, okay, I want to create a specific plan of attack. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I am going to get up and stretch, which is, I mean, in a way, exercise and meditation, once a day for the next 3 days. And then I'm going to recheck in and increase that goal. For most people, that can be achievable. It's time relevant, it's very specific. Likely you're going to experience success from it. So then the next place where it comes is like that accountability. Okay, can I put a timer on my phone? Can I ask my work cubicle friend to check in with me on it? Where can I measure this? And I kind of put it into action and I try it. And then at the end of the week, I check in and I'm like, okay, yeah, I got all that. If I missed a day, that's okay. I'll try it again the next day. And then I slowly add in more achievable action steps. So I'm starting with the stretching at my desk. Just you can do that. I mean, you could do whatever you want. And then I might say something like, I'm going to walk around the building 3 times a week for 5 minutes. Same plan. Accountability, putting it in your phone, having somewhere where you can track it. The concept that it's all or nothing is not helpful thinking. The truth is some is better than none. And while, yes, progress is going to be slower, the smaller it is, the more achievable it is, the more likely we're going to help our brains and our bodies adapt to these patterns. So that would be an example of how to incorporate in exercise. If exercise, even though that is the number one thing that can kind of help decrease stress and help heart health, that is a tongue twister, is your thing, then you could start a gratitude journal. They identify that gratitude is an underutilized emotional emotion that is extremely helpful with your outlook of the world. Excuse me, I'm apparently having difficulty time talking today. Decreasing stress and also being more present. The more present that we are, the less reactive we are. When we are reactive, that is one of the main causes of letting out those stress hormones into our bodies. So a gratitude journal could be something that you keep by your bed. And before you go to bed, every other night, you write down 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be your cup of coffee. It could be your dogs. It could be your bed. But you're starting to help retrain your brain pathways to think and be more present and grateful. After you do it a couple of times, you then recheck in about your goal. As I talk about this, I even want to add flair to it because I'm like, it is so routine and kind of basic to do these small steps. And I know I've been preaching this since I've gotten here, but again, that is how we create the change in our bodies and in our brains. What happens with our brains and bodies is that we have neural pathways. And a lot of times we've been doing the same things over and over again. Someone explained these brain pathways to me once in a unique way, and I like to share with other people what it is. So you can think about it too when you're doing something different. So think about a horse and a buggy. And think about them going to work the same day on that dirt road. What happens is that the buggy and the wheels and even the horses, they build paths. And those paths get stronger and stronger. Then one day, the bridge is out, or you decide you want to go a different way, and you try to get the horse and buggy to go to the left instead of to the way that they're used to. What happens? The wheel can break, the horse can fight you, the rut can be really hard to get out of, and so you have to keep practicing. It's boring, it's plain, but every single day you have to remind the horse and the buggy that we're going to go to work this way. We're going to do this differently. In times of stress, the horse and the buggy are going to try to go back to that normal way because it's comfortable. Even though maybe you've been doing this new way for 6 months, that is nothing compared to the 20 years that you've created those patterns of brain or those brain patterns. Our body has a very similar concept. That was a very elementary way to explain it, but it's helpful for me, where we are so used to the approaches that we've done. However, that doesn't mean it's impossible to change. It just means that it's going to take consistency and accountability. I also like to add the word compassion because it's okay that your body and your brain want to do what's normal and what you have done. It's really hard to start to challenge and do it a different way, which is why we start with those smaller steps to tell the horse in the buggy it's going to be safe to do something different. So, heart health, the best thing that you can do is choose one thing that you're willing to start to try to do differently starting today. It could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could be walking, it could be laughing. They're all equally helpful in helping you decrease stress. Find an accountability partner and make it manageable. I have a few minutes left, but I wanted to make sure I left time for any questions. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so someone just wrote, muscle tension is my issue. That makes sense because when we're stressed, a lot of times what happens, which also impacts the heart, is we don't breathe. I know people are like, well, you have to breathe to live. But the reality is our breath becomes very shallow. One of the best things about meditation, as well as breath exercise, is it helps us naturally release some of the stress in our bodies. So the more you can connect to your breath, and there's something called a progressive muscle relaxation. You could find that online through YouTube. The better you're going to feel and the more you can start to decrease your stress. That consistency will help you tap in to noticing, as we talked about in the first few minutes, of where you're holding the stress in your body. Once you start to acknowledge, yeah, I have some stress in my shoulders, you can release them. You can breathe to them. So for you, Sheila, I would actually encourage your SMART goal to be practicing progressive muscle relaxation and finding a meditation online that could support you with that. Well, I appreciate everyone for coming, and thanks for yeah, we all need to do a microburst of muscle tension release. I should have started that with that. But anyways, I appreciate you all for coming so much. Sorry about the mishap in the beginning with the recording. And I hope you all have a good day. Good luck starting this new way of looking at things. Take care.